What if I told you that death isn't what you think it is? Right now, as you're watching this, thousands of people around the world are taking their final breath. And in those last moments, something incredible happens. Something that completely changes everything we thought we knew about dying. 3 years ago, a woman named Sarah flatlined for 7 minutes during emergency surgery. When she came back, she described seeing her deceased grandmother standing in a field of light, more real than anything she'd ever experienced. She wasn't alone. Over 15 million people worldwide have reported similar near-death experiences. But here's what's truly remarkable. Whether it's a grandmother who passed decades ago, a child who lived only briefly, or a skeptical scientist who never believed in an afterlife, they all describe seeing the same 9 extraordinary things. If you've ever wondered what happens in those final moments, if you've lost someone and ached to know they're okay, if you've questioned whether death is truly the end, then what I'm about to share will change everything. Today, we're going to journey together through the most profound moment of human existence. We'll explore the 9 things that every soul witnesses as they cross from this world to the next revelations, that come not just from ancient scripture, but from thousands of documented near-death experiences that science is still struggling to explain. Warning: what you're about to discover may be the most important information you'll ever hear. Before we begin, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever lost someone you couldn't bear to lose? Have you ever stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering where they are now? Are they at peace? Can they see you? Do they know how much you miss them? You're not alone in these questions. From the moment humans first walked this earth, we've wondered about the great mystery that awaits us all. But what if I told you it's not a mystery anymore? What if thousands of people have already made the journey and come back to tell us exactly what they saw? The truth is, death follows a pattern, a beautiful, consistent pattern that reveals itself to every soul, regardless of their beliefs, their past, or their fears. Let me paint you a picture of what really happens in those final moments. Picture this. The heart monitor flatlines, the last breath escapes. But instead of darkness, instead of nothingness, the dying person's eyes suddenly fill with wonder. "Grandma, but you died when I was 12. This is how it begins for everyone. Not with fear, not with judgment, but with the most beautiful reunion imaginable. Dr. Raymond Moody, who coined the term near-death experience, documented over 1,000 cases where people reported seeing deceased relatives at the moment of death. These aren't hallucinations caused by dying brain cells. They're consistent, detailed, life-changing encounters. Here's what makes this incredible. People often meet relatives they never knew existed. Children see great-grandparents they'd never met. Adults encounter siblings who died before they were born. How could a dying brain create detailed interactions with people they'd never seen? Sarah, the woman I mentioned earlier, not only saw her grandmother but also met her uncle who had died in Vietnam before she was born. She described his military uniform perfectly, details her family had never shared with her. But here's the most beautiful part. These departed loved ones don't come as judges or ghosts. They come as guides, radiating perfect love and peace. They're there for one purpose only, to help their beloved family member cross over without fear. As Ecclesiastes tells us, the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. But it doesn't return alone. It returns escorted by love itself. Have you ever felt a presence after losing someone? That wasn't your imagination. They're still connected to you, still watching over you. And when your time comes, they'll be the first faces you see. In that sacred moment between heartbeats, something extraordinary happens to the human mind. Every material worry, every financial stress, every possession that once seemed so important, it all dissolves like morning mist. Imagine spending your whole life climbing a mountain. only to discover at the peak that the mountain was just a shadow. This is what happens to every soul in those final moments. The house you worked decades to pay off, the car you polished every weekend, the jewelry you treasured, the trophies on your shelf, none of it exists in that realm between worlds. But here's what's remarkable. This isn't a loss. It's the most liberating experience imaginable. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly, completely worry-free? When did you last feel no pressure about money, no stress about possessions, no anxiety about success or failure? The dying experience this freedom completely. They realize what Jesus meant when he said, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?" One near-death experiencer, a successful businessman named Robert, described it perfectly. "I spent 40 years building an empire of stuff. In that moment I realized I'd been collecting shadows while ignoring the sun. This release isn't about losing everything, it's about discovering what was real all along. Love, connection, the moments that took your breath away, the laughter that echoed through your home, the tears you shared with friends, the quiet moments of perfect peace." Scripture reminds us, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." At the moment of death, this becomes crystal clear. The only wealth that matters is the love you gave and received. Now comes one of the most documented and remarkable aspects of the dying experience. As the soul separates from the physical body, something incredible happens. They rise above the scene and witness their own death from a completely new vantage point. Imagine floating peacefully above your own body, watching the people you love gathered around you. This isn't science fiction. This is reported by thousands of people who've been clinically dead and returned. They describe floating near the ceiling, watching doctors work on their bodies, seeing family members cry, hearing every word spoken in the room. Dr. Pim van Lommel's groundbreaking study in the Netherlands documented case after case of patients accurately describing events that happened while they were clinically dead, conversations in other rooms, medical procedures they couldn't have witnessed, even items placed outside their line of sight. But here's what's truly profound about this experience. From this elevated perspective, the dying person finally understands the impact of their life. They see the love surrounding them, the grief of those left behind, and they realize, perhaps for the first time, how deeply they were cherished. One woman described watching her teenage son break down crying beside her hospital bed. She said, "I'd been so worried I was a failure as a mother. From above I could see the truth. I could see how much love I'd poured into him, and how that love was now part of who he was." This isn't a cold, detached observation. The spirit feels everything more intensely than ever before. They experience the pain of their loved ones, but also the overwhelming love that fills the room. They understand, finally, that their life mattered more than they ever imagined. Scripture speaks of this. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit. In this moment, there's a communion between the departing soul and those left behind, a final, profound connection that transcends physical death. Here's where the story becomes even more extraordinary. Many souls, having witnessed the grief of their departure, make a choice. Instead of immediately moving toward the light, they linger just long enough to offer comfort to those they couldn't say goodbye to in person. They become messengers of peace, traveling as pure love to visit the dreams and quiet moments of those who need them most. This isn't wishful thinking. This is documented by thousands of families worldwide. The sister who lives across the country wakes from a vivid dream of her brother saying goodbye, only to receive the phone call an hour later that he's passed. The childhood friend who feels a sudden peaceful presence, not knowing their old companion, died that very moment 3 states away. Maria's story is particularly powerful. When her mother passed suddenly of a heart attack, Maria was in Europe on a business trip. That night she dreamed her mother came to her hotel room, hugged her, and said, "Mija, I'm okay. Don't carry guilt about not being there. I love you." When Maria called home the next morning, she learned her mother had died at the exact time of her dream. The Bible tells us, "God will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." While the departed aren't angels, they often serve this comforting role in their final earthly mission. Here's what's beautiful about this. These visits aren't random, they're purposeful acts of love. The departing soul sees who needs comfort most, who's carrying guilt, who's struggling with their absence. And like the most gentle whisper from beyond, they offer exactly what's needed: peace, forgiveness, and the assurance that love never dies. This is why so many people say they felt their loved one's presence or received a sign. It wasn't imagination, it was love transcending the boundaries between worlds. As the soul moves deeper into the transitional realm, something profoundly moving occurs. Their entire life begins to unfold before them like the most detailed, emotionally rich movie ever created. But this isn't just watching memories. This is experiencing the complete truth of every moment they lived. Every act of kindness ripples outward, showing its impact across decades. Every harsh word reveals its lasting sting. Every moment of joy is felt with perfect clarity. Every tear, every laugh, every choice, all of it matters more than they ever realized. Dr. Kenneth Ring, a leading researcher in near-death studies, found that 32% of experiencers report this life review. But what makes it remarkable isn't the percentage, it's the consistent message. Every single moment of life has meaning. One man described seeing himself as a young father, exhausted after work, still taking time to read to his daughter. In that moment of review, he saw the ripple effects, how that consistency built her love of learning, which led to her becoming a teacher, which touched hundreds of young lives. But the review isn't about judgment. It's about understanding. "I saw my mistakes," said one experiencer, "but I also saw how even my failures taught me compassion. I saw how my struggles helped me understand others' pain. Nothing was wasted." The Bible speaks of this when it says, "We must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad." But those who've experienced this describe it not as condemnation, but as the most complete understanding of a life's true value. Here's the remarkable truth. In this review, people discover that happiness wasn't a destination. It was woven throughout the journey. It was in the morning coffee shared with a spouse, the laugh with a friend, the moment of helping a stranger, the quiet prayer in a difficult time. The question isn't whether you lived a perfect life. The question is whether you loved, learned, and grew, and the beautiful answer for every soul is yes. As the life review concludes, the soul becomes aware of something approaching, a light unlike anything experienced on earth. This isn't the harsh glare of artificial lighting or even the warmth of sunlight. This is light that radiates love, peace, and perfect understanding. Thousands of near-death experiencers describe this light as more real than reality itself. Dr. Jeffrey Long, founder of the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, has collected over 4,000 accounts of this phenomenon. The descriptions are remarkably consistent across cultures, religions, and belief systems. A light that doesn't blind but reveals, that doesn't burn but heals, that doesn't judge but embraces. "I felt like I was coming home after the longest journey imaginable," described one experiencer. "The light wasn't just around me, it was in me, through me, becoming me." This is the moment the soul realizes its true nature. All the fears, all the doubts, all the pain of earthly existence dissolves in the presence of perfect, unconditional love. The Bible tells us, God is light, in him there is no darkness at all, and I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. But here's what's extraordinary about this encounter. People of all faiths, and even those with no faith at all, Describe meeting this same loving presence. It's as if love itself has a face, a personality, a heart that beats in perfect rhythm with the universe. One atheist scientist, Dr. Eben Alexander, spent years trying to debunk near-death experiences until he had one himself during a coma. He emerged describing an encounter with a love so profound it changed his entire worldview. I was loved with a fierce, beautiful love, a love that nothing in this world could stop. This light doesn't demand explanations or confessions. It simply loves, completely, eternally, without condition or reservation. As the soul approaches this light, they understand what Jesus meant by, "In my Father's house are many rooms. I'm going there to prepare a place for you." This isn't just poetry, it's a promise being fulfilled. In the presence of this overwhelming love, something profound happens to the soul's understanding. Suddenly, with crystal clarity, they see the intricate design of their entire existence. Every joy, every sorrow, every seemingly random event, all of it was woven together in a tapestry of purpose they never could have imagined. The soul realizes their life wasn't a series of accidents. It was a carefully orchestrated journey of spiritual growth. This revelation is almost universal among near-death experiencers. They describe understanding for the first time that every challenge they faced was actually an opportunity to develop compassion, strength, wisdom, or love. "I saw that my biggest struggles weren't punishments," shared one experiencer. "They were my greatest teachers. The divorce that broke my heart taught me self-reliance. The illness that scared me taught me gratitude. The loss that devastated me taught me to comfort others." Ecclesiastes reminds us, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. In this moment of divine understanding, the soul sees how perfectly their seasons were arranged. Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist who initially skeptical of spiritual experiences, documented case after case of people understanding their life's purpose during near-death experiences. They realized they came to Earth not just to exist, but to evolve, to become more loving, more compassionate, more wise. But here's the most beautiful part of this revelation. The soul discovers that they succeeded. Even in their struggles, even in their failures, even in their darkest moments, they were growing. They were becoming who they were meant to be. I understood that every soul I encountered, even the difficult ones, were part of my curriculum, described one woman. And I was part of theirs. We were all teachers and students for each other. The Bible speaks of this when it says, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him." In this moment of complete understanding, the soul sees how even their worst experiences work together for their spiritual good. This isn't about religious dogma or philosophical theory. This is about the fundamental truth that existence has meaning, that every life matters, and that love is the ultimate curriculum of the universe. As understanding dawns and purpose becomes clear, the soul's journey takes them deeper into a realm that surpasses every earthly paradise ever imagined. They begin to see the eternal home that has been prepared for them, a place where the very concept of suffering cannot exist. This isn't the cloudy, harp-playing heaven of cartoons. This is a realm of such indescribable beauty that human language fails to capture it. Those who've glimpsed this realm struggle to find words. They speak of colors that don't exist on Earth, music that resonates in their very soul, landscapes that shift and change with the power of thought, and architecture that defies physics while perfectly expressing divine love. The Book of Revelation attempts to describe it. The city doesn't need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light. The walls are adorned with every kind of precious stone, and the gates are made of pearls. But more than the visual splendor, experiencers describe the emotional reality of this realm. There is no fear here, no anxiety, no loneliness, no pain. The very atmosphere is made of peace, love, and perfect understanding. One near-death experiencer described meeting thousands of angels whose sole purpose seemed to be celebrating each soul's arrival. They weren't singing about me, they were singing with me, as if my journey home was the most important event in the universe. Here's what's remarkable. In this realm, the soul reunites not just with departed loved ones, but with every soul they've ever truly connected with. The teacher who believed in them, the stranger who showed kindness, the friend who shared their dreams. Love creates eternal bonds that transcend time and space. But perhaps most beautiful of all, in this eternal realm, the soul discovers they can still influence and comfort those left behind. Love doesn't end at death. It expands beyond all earthly limitations. The promise Jesus made becomes reality. I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. Finally, at the culmination of this incredible journey, comes the moment every soul has unconsciously yearned for throughout their entire existence. In the heart of the eternal realm, surrounded by indescribable love and perfect peace, they come face to face with the source of all existence, God Himself. This isn't a meeting with a distant, judgmental deity. This is a reunion with the very essence of love that has known them intimately since before time began. Experiencers struggle to describe this encounter because it transcends human experience. They speak of a presence so pure, so loving, so completely accepting that every fear they ever carried simply dissolves. This is love in its absolute, perfect form. I realized, shared one experiencer, that this being had been with me every moment of my life, in my highest joys and my deepest sorrows, in my greatest successes and my worst failures. This love had never left me, never judged me, never abandoned me. The Bible tells us, "For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face." This is that moment, when the soul finally sees clearly what they had only glimpsed through faith. Dr. Melvin Morse, a pediatric physician who has studied children's near-death experiences, found that young people consistently describe this encounter as the most natural thing in the world, like a child running into the arms of a parent they've been separated from for too long. In this divine encounter, the soul experiences several profound realizations. First, they understand that they are known completely. Every thought, every motivation, every secret struggle, and they are loved completely despite it all. Second, they realize that separation from the divine was always an illusion. They were never truly alone, never truly abandoned, never truly unloved. Third, they comprehend that their earthly journey, with all its pain and confusion, was actually a sacred mission, an opportunity to experience love in all its forms and to share that love with others. "Before a word is on my tongue, you Lord, know it completely," the psalmist wrote. In this moment, the soul experiences the profound comfort of being completely known and completely loved. Finally, in this ultimate encounter, there comes a moment of choice. Some souls, especially those who've had near-death experiences, are given the option to return to complete their earthly mission. Others, whose time has truly come, surrender completely to this perfect love, knowing they have found their eternal home. The last thing they feel before merging completely with divine love is not fear or sadness, but overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude for the journey, gratitude for the lessons, gratitude for the love they experienced and shared, and above all, gratitude for finally coming home. As we reach the end of our journey together through these 9 profound experiences, I want you to know that if you're grieving someone you love, they experienced every one of these beautiful moments. They were welcomed by love, freed from all earthly burdens, understood their purpose, and found their eternal home in perfect peace. Death isn't the end of love. It's love's complete victory over everything that tried to diminish it. If this message has touched your heart, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs hope. And remember, the love you're feeling right now for those who've passed, that love is eternal. It connects you across any distance, transcends any separation, and will reunite you when your own beautiful journey reaches its destined conclusion. Until then, live fully, love deeply, and know that you are part of a story far more beautiful than you've ever imagined. The light is real, the love is real, and your loved ones are waiting for you in a place where tears become joy, where separation becomes reunion, and where every question finds its perfect answer. Thank you for taking this journey with me. May you find comfort in knowing that for those we love, the best is yet to come.